Surviving in a declining culture is one of the greatest challenges of our time, because everywhere we look, we see values shifting, truth being questioned, and standards being lowered. What was once considered right is now often rejected, and what was once rejected is now celebrated. In the middle of this confusion, many people feel pressure to blend in, to stay silent, or to compromise their beliefs, just to avoid conflict. But real strength is not found in going along with the crowd. It is found in standing firm when everything around you is falling apart. A declining culture does not mean a defeated people. It simply means there is a greater need for individuals who are grounded, disciplined, and guided by truth. Instead of allowing the environment to shape us, we must develop the courage to rise above it, to live with purpose, and to influence the culture rather than be controlled by it. Survival in such a time is not just about endurance. It is about living with conviction, clarity, and courage when it matters most. In a culture that is constantly shifting, the greatest danger is not always what is happening around you, but what is slowly happening within you. When everything changes so quickly, it becomes easy to lose your sense of direction. Standards that once guided people begin to fade, and opinions replace principles. If you are not careful, you can start adjusting your beliefs just to keep up, not because you are convinced, but because you are pressured. That is why staying rooted in unchanging truth is absolutely essential. Truth gives you a foundation that does not move even when everything else feels unstable. It becomes your anchor in moments of confusion, your compass when you are unsure which direction to take, and your strength when you are tempted to compromise. Being rooted in truth is not something that happens automatically. It requires intentional effort. You have to decide that you are not going to live your life based on what is trending or what is convenient. Instead, you commit yourself to understanding what is right at a deeper level. This involves learning, reflecting, and applying truth consistently in your daily life. It means taking time to think about your values instead of just reacting to situations. When you invest in understanding truth, you begin to develop clarity, and clarity gives you confidence. You no longer feel lost in the noise of different opinions because you know where you stand. One of the biggest challenges in a declining culture is that truth often becomes unpopular. There will be moments when standing on what is right may cause you to feel isolated or misunderstood. People may question your decisions, criticize your stance, or even try to persuade you to change. In those moments, being rooted in truth helps you remain steady. You realize that truth is not determined by how many people agree with it. Just because something is widely accepted does not make it right. And just because something is rejected does not make it wrong. When you understand this, you stop seeking validation from the crowd and start living with conviction. Staying rooted in truth also shapes your character. It influences the way you think, speak, and act. Instead of reacting emotionally to every situation, you respond with wisdom and purpose. You begin to make decisions that align with your values, even when they are difficult. Over time, this consistency builds integrity. People may not always agree with you, but they will recognize that you stand for something. That kind of stability is rare in a world where many are constantly shifting, and it becomes a powerful example to others. Another important aspect of being rooted in truth is that it protects you from confusion and deception. In a declining culture, there are many voices competing for your attention, each trying to define what is right and wrong. Without a solid foundation, it becomes easy to be influenced by whatever sounds appealing in the moment. But when you are grounded in truth, you are able to discern what aligns with your values and what does not. You are not easily swayed by emotional arguments or temporary trends because you have something deeper guiding you. At the same time, being rooted in truth does not mean becoming rigid or closed-minded. It means having a clear foundation while still being willing to learn and grow. Truth is not threatened by growth. It is strengthened by it. As you continue to learn, your understanding deepens and your confidence increases. You become more equipped to handle challenges, more prepared to stand firm under pressure, and more capable of influencing others in a positive way. Ultimately, staying rooted in unchanging truth is what allows you to survive and thrive in a declining culture. It keeps you grounded when everything else is unstable, gives you direction when others are lost, and provides you with the strength to stand firm when it matters most. While the world around you may continue to change, your foundation remains secure, and that stability becomes the key to living with purpose, integrity, and lasting impact. Developing strong personal convictions is one of the most important decisions you can make if you truly want to survive and stand firm in a declining culture. It is not enough to simply agree with what is right when everything is easy and comfortable. Real conviction is revealed when you are faced with pressure, opposition, or the temptation to take an easier path. Many people assume they will stand strong when the moment comes, but the truth is that strength in the moment is built long before the moment ever arrives. If you wait until you are under pressure to decide what you believe, you will likely be influenced by fear, emotions, or the opinions of others. That is why convictions must be developed intentionally ahead of time, so that when challenges arise, you are already prepared. Convictions are deeper than preferences. A preference is something you choose when it is convenient, but a conviction is something you stand on even when it costs you something. It is easy to say you believe in honesty, integrity, or discipline, but those beliefs are tested when telling the truth becomes uncomfortable, when integrity puts you at a disadvantage, or when discipline requires sacrifice. In those moments, your convictions determine your actions. Without strong convictions, you may find yourself adjusting your values to fit the situation, but with convictions, your values remain consistent, regardless of the circumstances. Building strong convictions begins with clarity. You have to take time to understand what you truly believe and why you believe it. This requires reflection and honesty with yourself. You cannot simply adopt beliefs because they were handed to you or because they are popular. You need to examine them, question them, and make them your own. When your convictions are rooted in understanding, they become stronger and more difficult to shake. You are no longer relying on borrowed beliefs. You are standing on something you have personally committed to. Once you have clarity, the next step is commitment. Convictions are not just ideas in your mind. They are decisions you make about how you will live your life. This means deciding in advance that you will act according to your values, even when it is inconvenient or uncomfortable. Commitment removes hesitation instead of debating in the moment. You already know what you will do because you have made that decision beforehand. This kind of preparation gives you confidence and reduces the likelihood of compromise. In a declining culture, the pressure to conform can be intense. You may face situations where going against the crowd makes you stand out in ways that feel uncomfortable. There may be social pressure, criticism, or even rejection. Without strong convictions, it becomes easy to justify compromise by telling yourself that it is not a big deal or that you can adjust just this once. But small compromises often lead to larger ones. When you start bending your values, it becomes easier to continue doing so. Strong convictions act as a safeguard, preventing that gradual drift away from what you know is right. Another important aspect of developing convictions is consistency. Convictions are strengthened through practice. Every time you choose to act according to your values, you reinforce them. Over time, those choices become habits, and those habits shape your character. On the other hand, if you repeatedly ignore your convictions, they begin to weaken. This is why daily decisions matter so much. The small choices you make when no one is watching are preparing you for the bigger moments when everything is on the line. It is also important to understand that having strong convictions does not mean being perfect. There will be times when you fall short or make mistakes. What matters is how you respond. Instead of giving up or lowering your standards, you learn from those moments and recommit to your values. Growth is part of the process, and each challenge you face is an opportunity to strengthen your convictions even further. Strong convictions also influence the people around you. When others see someone who is consistent, reliable, and unwilling to compromise on what truly matters, it creates a sense of respect. Even if they do not agree with you, they recognize that you stand for something. In a culture where many people are constantly changing to fit in, that kind of stability is powerful. It can inspire others to examine their own beliefs and develop convictions of their own. Ultimately, developing strong personal convictions is about deciding who you are and how you will live regardless of external circumstances. It is about choosing principles over convenience, truth over popularity, and purpose over comfort. When you have strong convictions, you are not easily shaken by the shifting culture around you. Instead, you stand firm, confident in your direction, and prepared to face whatever challenges come your way. Refusing to conform to negative influences is one of the most challenging yet necessary decisions you will ever make, especially in a declining culture where unhealthy patterns are often normalized and even celebrated. Every day, you are surrounded by messages, behaviors, and expectations that try to shape the way you think, speak, and act. Some of these influences are subtle, while others are direct and forceful. Over time, if you are not intentional, these pressures can slowly pull you away from your values and lead you into compromise. That is why learning to resist negative influences is not just important. It is essential for maintaining your identity and integrity. The reality is that conformity is comfortable. It is easier to go along with what everyone else is doing than to stand apart. When you conform, you avoid conflict, criticism, and rejection. You blend in, and for a moment that can feel safe. But the problem with this kind of comfort is that it often comes at the cost of your character. When you consistently follow the crowd, you begin to lose your ability to think independently. You stop questioning what is wrong, right and wrong, and instead you measure your actions by what is popular or accepted. Over time, this leads to a weakened sense of identity, where your choices are no longer guided by conviction, but by conviction. Refusing to conform requires awareness. You have to recognize the influences around you and evaluate whether they align with your values. Not everything that is popular is beneficial, and not everything that is widely accepted is right. This means you cannot simply accept ideas, trends, or behaviors without examining them. You must develop the habit of thinking critically, asking yourself whether something contributes to your growth or pulls you away from your purpose. This kind of awareness protects you from blindly adopting patterns that may harm you in the long run. Another key aspect of resisting negative influences is courage. Standing apart from the crowd is not easy. There will be moments when your decision to live differently makes you feel isolated. People may question you, mock you, or try to pressure you into changing your stance. In those moments, it takes courage to remain firm. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to do what is right despite fear. It is choosing integrity over acceptance and long-term purpose over short-term comfort. The more you practice this kind of courage, the stronger it becomes and the easier it is to stand your ground in future situations. It is also important to understand that refusing to conform does not mean rejecting everything around you. It means being selective. There are positive influences that can help you grow, and there are negative ones that can hold you back. The key is to develop discerning, the ability to distinguish between what is beneficial and what is harmful. This requires wisdom and intentionality. You cannot allow your environment to dictate your choices. Instead, you must take responsibility for the direction of your life. One of the dangers of negative influences is that they often start small. A minor compromise may not seem like a big deal in the moment, but it can set a pattern. Once you allow yourself to bend in one area, it becomes easier to bend in others. Over time, these small compromises can lead to significant changes in your character and behavior. That is why it is important to address negative influences early, before they take root. By setting clear boundaries and sticking to them, you protect yourself from gradual decline. Refusing to conform also strengthens your sense of identity. When you consistently choose your values over external pressure, you become more confident in who you are. You are no longer defined by the opinions of others, but by the principles you have chosen to live by. This confidence is not arrogance. It is a quiet assurance that you are living with purpose and integrity. It allows you to move through life with clarity, even when others are uncertain or confused. Another powerful outcome of resisting negative influences is the impact it has on others. When people see someone who is willing to stand apart, it challenges them to think differently. Your example can inspire others to question their own choices and consider whether they are living according to their values. In this way, your decision to refuse conformity does not just benefit you, it creates a ripple effect that can influence the culture around you in a positive way. Ultimately, refusing to conform to negative influences is about taking ownership of your life. It is about deciding that you will not allow external pressures to dictate your character or your direction. While the path may be difficult at times, it leads to a life of authenticity, strength, and purpose. In a declining culture, this kind of resolve is rare, but it is also what sets you apart and enables you to not just survive, but to live with integrity and lasting impact. Building inner strength and discipline is the foundation that allows you to remain steady when everything around you feels unstable. In a declining culture where standards are constantly shifting and pressure is increasing, external stability becomes harder to find. That is why your greatest source of strength must come from within. Inner strength is not something you are born with. It is something you develop over time through consistent effort, intentional habits, and a commitment to growth. It is what keeps you grounded when circumstances are uncertain and gives you the ability to respond with wisdom instead of reacting out of emotion. Discipline plays a central role in developing this kind of strength. While motivation may come and go, discipline is what keeps you moving forward even when you do not feel like it. It is the ability to do what is right, regardless of your mood or situation. In a culture that often prioritizes comfort and instant gratification, discipline can feel uncomfortable and even unpopular. However, it is precisely this willingness to do what others avoid that sets you apart and builds resilience in your character. Each time you choose discipline over convenience, you are strengthening your ability to handle greater challenges in the future. One of the key aspects of inner strength is controlling your thoughts. Your mindset shapes your actions, and your actions shape your life. If you allow negative or unproductive thoughts to dominate your mind, they will eventually influence your behavior. That is why it is important to be intentional about what you focus on. Developing mental discipline means choosing to think in ways that align with your values and goals. It involves rejecting thoughts that lead to fear, doubt, or compromise, and replacing them with thoughts that promote clarity, confidence, and purpose. Over time, this practice transforms the way you see yourself and the world around you. Another important component of inner strength is emotional control. In a declining culture, emotions are often elevated above truth, and decisions are made based on how people feel in the moment. While emotions are a natural part of being human, they should not be the primary driver of your actions. Discipline allows you to acknowledge your emotions without being controlled by them. It gives you the ability to pause, reflect, and choose your response carefully. This kind of emotional stability is powerful because it prevents you from making impulsive decisions that you may later regret. Consistency is also essential in building inner strength. It is not what you do occasionally that shapes you, or what you do daily. Small repeated actions create habits, and habits form your character. Whether it is maintaining a routine, practicing self-control, or following through on commitments, each act of consistency reinforces your discipline. Over time, these habits become part of who you are, making it easier to stay strong even when circumstances become difficult. The key is to focus on progress rather than perfection, understanding that growth happens gradually. In addition, inner strength is developed through challenges. Difficult situations are not just obstacles. They are opportunities to grow. When you face adversity, you have a choice. You can either be weakened by it or strengthened through it. Discipline helps you choose the latter. Instead of avoiding challenges, you learn to face them with determination. Each challenge you overcome increases your confidence and prepares you for future obstacles. This process builds resilience, allowing you to endure and persevere even when things do not go as planned. It is also important to recognize that building inner strength requires patience. Growth does not happen overnight. There will be moments when progress feels slow or when you struggle to stay consistent. In those moments, discipline keeps you moving forward. It reminds you that the process is just as important as the outcome. By staying committed, even when it is difficult, you develop a level of strength that cannot be easily shaken. Ultimately, building inner strength and discipline is what enables you to stand firm in a declining culture. It gives you the ability to remain focused when others are distracted, to stay grounded when others are uncertain, and to act with purpose when others are driven by impulse. This kind of strength is not dependent on external circumstances. It comes from a deep sense of self-control and commitment. When you cultivate it, you are not only able to survive the challenges around you, but you are also equipped to rise above them and live with confidence, clarity, and purpose. Surrounding yourself with the right people is one of the most powerful decisions you can make when trying to remain strong in a declining culture. No matter how determined or disciplined you are, the environment you place yourself in will always have an influence on your thinking, your behavior, and your direction in life. Human beings are naturally shaped by the people they spend the most time with. Conversations, attitudes, habits, and priorities are often absorbed without even realizing it. That is why choosing the right circle is not just a social decision. It is a strategic one that directly affects your growth and your ability to stand firm. In a culture where values are shifting and standards are weakening, it becomes even more important to be intentional about your relationships. If you consistently surround yourself with people who are careless about their choices, indifferent about truth, or easily influenced by trends, it will eventually impact you. Even if you start with strong convictions, constant exposure to negative influences can slowly wear down your resistance. On the other hand, when you are connected to people who are committed to growth, integrity, and purpose, their influence strengthens you. They challenge you to think better, act better, and remain consistent in your values. The right people do more than just support you. They hold you accountable. Accountability is essential because it keeps you from drifting. There will be moments when you feel tired, discouraged, or tempted to compromise. In those moments, having someone who can remind you of your values and encourage you to stay on track makes a significant difference. Accountability is not about control. It is about care. It is about having people in your life who are willing to speak truth even when it is uncomfortable, because they want to see you succeed. Another important aspect of surrounding yourself with the right people is the encouragement they provide. Life in a declining culture can sometimes feel isolating, especially when you are choosing a path that is different from the majority. It is easy to become discouraged when you feel like you are standing alone. However, when you are part of a supportive community, you are reminded that you are not alone. Encouragement gives you the strength to keep going, even when challenges arise. It renews your confidence and helps you stay focused on your purpose. It is also important to recognize that the right relationships are built on mutual growth. Healthy connections are not one-sided. While others support and encourage you, you should also be a source of strength for them. This creates a cycle of positive influence where everyone involved is growing together. In such an environment, people are not just existing, they are developing, improving, and moving forward with intention. This kind of community becomes a powerful force that helps each individual remain strong despite external pressures. At the same time, surrounding yourself with the right people may require making difficult decisions. Not every relationship will align with your values or support your growth. There may be situations where you need to create distance from individuals who consistently pull you in the wrong direction. This does not mean you stop caring about them, but it does mean you prioritize your purpose and your well-being. Setting boundaries is a sign of strength, not weakness. It shows that you are serious about protecting your values and your future. In addition, the right people help you maintain perspective. In a declining culture, it is easy to become overwhelmed by negativity or discouraged by what you see around you. Positive, grounded individuals can help you stay focused on what truly matters. They remind you of your goals, your values, and your purpose. They help you see beyond temporary challenges and keep your attention on long-term growth. This kind of perspective is essential for maintaining clarity and direction. Another benefit of surrounding yourself with the right people is the influence they have on your habits. Habits are often formed through repetition and environment. When you are around people who prioritize discipline, growth, and integrity, those qualities begin to reflect in your own life. You start to adopt similar patterns, not because you are forced to, but because you are consistently exposed to them. Over time, these habits become part of your character, strengthening your ability to stand firm. Ultimately, surrounding yourself with the right people is about creating an environment that supports your values and strengthens your resolve. It is about choosing relationships that align with your purpose and contribute to your growth. In a declining culture, this kind of intentional community is not just beneficial, it is necessary. It provides the support, accountability, encouragement, and perspective needed to remain steady and focused. When you are connected to the right people, you are not just surviving, you are growing, thriving, and becoming stronger with each step forward. Being a light instead of just surviving is what ultimately separates those who merely endure a declining culture from those who rise above it and make a lasting impact. It is easy to adopt a mindset of survival where your only goal is to protect yourself from negative influences and avoid being pulled in the wrong direction. While survival is important, it is not the final purpose. You were not created to simply endure the darkness around you. You were meant to bring clarity, direction, and hope into it. Choosing to be a light means that instead of being overwhelmed by the condition of the culture, you take responsibility for the role you can play in influencing it for the better. Being a light begins with understanding that your life has influence, whether you realize it or not. Every decision you make, every word you speak, and every action you take sends a message to the people around you. In a declining culture where confusion and inconsistencies are common, a life that reflects stability, integrity, and purpose stands out. You may not always see the immediate impact, but your consistency has the power to shape perspectives, challenge assumptions, and inspire change over time. When you choose to live with intention, you become an example that others can observe and learn from. One of the key aspects of being a light is living with authenticity. People are not drawn to perfection. They are drawn to genuineness. When you live in alignment with your values, without pretending or compromising to fit in, it creates a sense of trust and credibility. Authenticity allows others to see that it is possible to live differently without losing your identity. It removes the pressure to perform and replaces it with the freedom to live honestly. In a culture where many people feel the need to put on a mask, authenticity becomes a powerful form of influence. Another important element is consistency. It is not enough to demonstrate positive values occasionally. Being a light requires a steady commitment. Consistency builds trust and reinforces the message you are communicating through your actions. When people see that you remain grounded, even when circumstances change, it creates a sense of reliability. They begin to recognize that your values are not temporary or situational, but deeply rooted. This kind of consistency is rare in a declining culture, and it makes your influence even more significant. Being a light also involves speaking with purpose. Words have the power to build or to tear down, to clarify or to confuse. In an environment where negativity, criticism, and misinformation are common, choosing to speak with wisdom and intention sets you apart. This does not mean avoiding difficult conversations. It means approaching them with clarity, respect, and a desire to uplift rather than harm. When your words align with your values, they become a tool for positive change rather than a source of division. In addition, being a light requires courage. There will be moments when standing for what is right or speaking truth may not be well received. You may face resistance, misunderstanding, or even opposition. However, influence often requires stepping outside of your comfort zone. Courage allows you to act despite fear, to remain steady despite pressure, and to continue shining even when it feels difficult. Each time you choose courage, you strengthen your ability to make a difference. It is also important to recognize that being a light does not mean trying to control or fix everything around you. Your role is not to force change, but to model it. Influence is most effective when it is demonstrated through actions rather than imposed through pressure. By living out your values consistently, you create an environment where others can observe, reflect, and choose for themselves. Reflect and choose for themselves. This approach respects individual freedom while still making a meaningful impact. Another powerful aspect of being a light is the ripple effect it creates. When one person chooses to live with integrity and purpose, it often inspires others to do the same. Those individuals then influence others, and over time, this creates a chain reaction. While you may not see the full extent of your impact, your actions contribute to something much larger than yourself. In a declining culture, even small acts of consistency and integrity can lead to significant change when multiplied over time. Ultimately, being a light instead of just surviving is about shifting your focus from protection to purpose. It is about recognizing that you have the ability to influence your environment in a positive way. While you may not be able to change everything, you can change the way you respond, the way you live, and the way you interact with others. This perspective transforms challenges into opportunities and obstacles, into platforms for growth. When you choose to be a light, you move beyond simply avoiding negativity and begin actively contributing to something better. You live with intention, speak with purpose, and act with intention. Speak with purpose. In doing so, you not only strengthen your own character, but also create a path for others to follow. In a declining culture, this kind of influence is not just valuable, it is necessary. It is what brings hope, direction, and the possibility of transformation in a world that needs it more than ever. In the end, surviving in a declining culture is not about hiding, compromising, or simply getting through each day. It is about standing firm, living with purpose, and becoming a source of strength in a time of weakness. When you stay rooted in truth, develop strong convictions, refuse to conform, build inner discipline, surround yourself with the right people, and choose to be a light. You position yourself to rise above the pressure instead of being shaped by it. The culture may continue to shift, but your foundation does not have to. And when you remain steady, you not only secure your own path, you create a way forward for others. So do not just survive the culture. Influence it, rise above it, and let your life be proof that even in decline, strength, truth, and purpose can still stand strong.